Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the Professor, Greg Dooley, and the Pundit, Steve Clark. Men, take the mic.
It's the Professor and the Pundit with Greg Dooley and Steve Clark, and as always, we are presented by Nick Hopwood, who's a certified financial planner, founder, and president of Peak Wealth Management. Retire with peak confidence. You can visit Nick's website at peakwm.com.
I got to say thank you to the listeners, especially everyone who reaches out and lets us know. Did I see a few listeners in Norman, Steve? I did. They're our age. They're older people. That's our demographic, but we love it. And what I always tell my students who said they love my class, if you are a listener to this podcast, tell somebody about it. That's how we grow. That's how we get bigger. Steve, what else we got for today?
There are no moral victories with Michigan football. The losses, no matter when and to whom, it still stinks. You think the problems carry over. You believe they won't be solved. And because of that, it's a hangover that can't be cured for a couple of weeks. Greg, you monitor fan reaction. What did you see?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Now we got AI tools I can use, Steve, to gather all this data. It does a wonderful job, but I think there was a feeling going in and a lot of talk that we have nothing to lose in this game, right? We're a young tree that's growing and there's going to be ups and downs.
Everybody has perspective until the loss.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's exactly it. I think a lot of those optimists over the course of 3-4 hours of frustration have turned to doubters, Steve. And that's what we see in some of the common themes from that mood sentiment. Coaching decisions, play calling, O-line regression, tackling, obviously concerns about injuries, but also some finger pointing about lack of adjustments. And of course, we'll get into this, but Sharon's not going to get a chance to have kind of a rebound game here, which I don't know if we thought about, before, but he's going to be completely out of the situation for a couple weeks. There is some optimism though. We did hang in there. The game was still in question late in the game. Granted, 8 points until they pulled away, but I think there's a lot of concerns, especially we got to make this trip back to Nebraska. That's going to be huge, but we'll get into all of it, man, all of it. Steve, what did you see?
This was not surprising to me in the least, only in the fact that I just felt like Michigan wasn't even really there. Even if they were within a score to actually tie the game or potentially take the lead, they just weren't making enough plays on either side of the ball. So I never felt like Michigan was kind of in the game. Bryce versus John Mateer. That's what everybody I expected would be talking about. They are talking about this over the weekend. Bryce, the number one prospect in the nation, true freshman, versus Mateer, the number one transfer portal prospect. That was the storyline. Now, John Mateer had 3,000 passing yards last year with an NCAA best 44 touchdowns. 15 of those were on the ground. Bryce is a developing story. Mateer is already there. As for Bryce, I think it was a big ask to go win in Norman, dominate the game, already one of the toughest places to play. It was the game of the week. It was college game day and a program in Oklahoma that was really, really hungry to win.
Yeah, and so as someone who had the unique perspective, I usually don't just exclusively watch the game in the stands, and we can get into that, but that's what I watched, and there's different types of gut punches with opposing talented quarterbacks, right? The one that he might tuck and run. Ohio State has done that to us in the past. But this guy, Mateer, the sentiment around the Michigan people, right? We got him. And he was so slippery, either with his runs or some of those throws and catches he made. It was a gut punch over and over and over again when we felt like we stopped. So I got to tip my hat to the guy.
Yeah, at least we're not complaining about bad officiating. It was stolen or taken away. There was none of that. Mateer is a veteran guy. He knows all the ins and outs. You could argue it was against a Pac-2 and a Mountain West Conference schedule. The guy was number one portal quarterback for a reason. You saw it in the All-22, by the way, didn't you? You saw it from behind the end zone.
Effectively, yeah, it was All-22. So
I love those seats.
You saw some things that were disappointing. Again, I don't know how much the camera caught some of this, but yeah, it was a unique perspective. It looked like we had him swallowed up a few times. So, but on our end, Steve, what did you think? Because our coaches are taking some hits. That was the headline of the fan reaction that I saw. What did you see on the play calling and what else?
Because it's obvious to fans. It's obvious to fans what went wrong, what you should have done, and it gets more frustrating when you don't see them change. I did see changes. I did see things that they were doing differently as the game evolved. Michigan fans and media were very high on what Chip Lindsey did for Bryce's first start against New Mexico. He did a lot of the same things. They were just a better defense. Throwing things at the line of scrimmage, making things easier, getting him comfortable, all that sort of stuff. Well, he wasn't getting comfortable because Oklahoma's defense is real. They're coached by one of the best defensive coordinators to coach in this century from a defensive standpoint in Brent Venables. And they said, prove it to me. Otherwise, we're going to destroy you at the line of scrimmage, make it impossible for you to run, and make you beat us on the throws. And Bryce was a 38% completion rate.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
It's really bad.
His efficiency rating was 87.2. That in itself is really bad. It needs to be in the 150s or higher. Your worst quarterbacks in the Big Ten have an efficiency rating in the low 100s. This was 87.2. 6 of the first 8 passes that Bryce threw were at or behind the line of scrimmage. This goes back to New Mexico about trying to get things comfortable, not putting it all into your hands, try to make things easier. The first pass was a good one, 19 yards, but 2 of them were for a loss. There was a drop. There were 2 incomplete passes in that string, so there was no success to build on. 2 passes to wide receiver Donna McCauley had miscommunication in them. McCauley was involved in Michigan's 2 biggest pass plays at the same time. So you could be half glass empty and say, boy, McCauley didn't do anything. And you can be glass half full. The 2 biggest plays that Michigan had involved Bryce Underwood and Donovan McCauley. The deep pass was thrown 7 times overall in the game. Only 2 were caught. One was a 50-50 ball. Great play by McCauley. The other 5 weren't close.
One of them probably should have been an interception, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, one was offside, so technically Bryce was 2 for 6 going deep, but I have him going for 7. And what did I mean by deep? Well, I defined it by passes that went 20 yards in the air, not by the total yards after the catch. Shamaz Morgan caught a 1-yard pass at the line of scrimmage and rushed for 25 yak yards after that. I'm calling that not a deep throw.
Agreed. I think that's a good way to look at it, Steve. Biggest takeaways, we got to package up where we go from here. And I think it's fair to do a little what if scenario, even though I think that's loser talk, but let's kind of break it down.
My biggest takeaway is this, that Oklahoma play caller Ben Arbuckle called the game that we hope Chip Lindsey would have called. It was aggressive. There were downfield shots. There were designed runs for Johnny Mateer, and they all had success. Michigan didn't go that route with Underwood, not nearly as much. And I think that's what people, I think, are the most frustrated in. They saw what Oklahoma did, and going in, they said, this is what Michigan should be doing, and they literally watched Oklahoma execute the Michigan game plan, which in some ways is what I expected. I expected the game plans to be the same for both. Just Oklahoma did much better.
Yeah, I think it's coming down to that, Steve, is the play calling that a lot of people are concerned with. Way too many runs, either off guard or off tackle that people were concerned about. I think a lot of people wanted to see us move Underwood out of the pocket more and try to get frisky. I just don't know if it would have mattered.
And he did.
Yeah.
So that's my point.
Yeah.
You didn't like the running game. You didn't like the fact that you were throwing at the line of scrimmage and the Oklahoma defense was smothering everybody up from the offensive line to the receivers in press coverage. And what did we have? We had receivers missing blocks at the line of scrimmage. It was a Justice Haynes pass who was almost enveloped before he caught it.
Yeah.
It was a 5-yard loss. 2 receivers missed blocks on the same guy on that play.
It was remarkable he caught that ball.
Yeah, he's better off dropping it. But anyway, the point is, but he also threw 7 times down the field. Didn't look so good. 2 of them were completed. 1 of them was a 50-50 ball, and 5 others weren't even close. So you can scream and cry about they should have thrown the ball deep more, got out of the running. What was the result when they did that? It was ugly.
Okay. So, Steve, with all this stuff you're talking about, are you concerned about our quarterback, or are you like, look, it was his second game and he just turned 18 years old? Where are you on
I'm
that?
on the ladder with the quarterback, but my long-term concern is whether there's a receiver who can help him out this season.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, McCauley made a spectacular catch in the third quarter on that 50-50 ball. That was very encouraging. But where is everybody else? Where is the difference maker from the receivers? Marlon Klein, the tight end, a go-to guy, did not play, and I think that was a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's a huge deal. So he was clearly his guy last time. Goodwin, he went to a bunch last time, in the first game, rather. So I thought that would be one of the guys that they're going to. So we need someone to emerge. We need him to be comfortable with that target. Would have Klein's presence in this game made a difference where other guys would have been more open, where they're keying on Klein? Again, we're starting to creep into probably loser talk, but the what ifs of what would have happened had he been out there. But you can't do that because you are gonna have guys go down. We know that, right?
Michigan has had to rely on tight ends for the last couple of years. Now, you mentioned Channing Goodwin. He had a good one. It was 17 yards in the air. He got 8 yards after the catch, and then there was another throw to him that was widely incomplete. That was called back on a defensive offsides. I thought when I look at the pass chart that Bryce Underwood played with, he threw to all of his receivers. Okay, there was Zachary Marshall with a couple of appearances. There was, Samaj Morgan with a couple of appearances. Justin Haynes was a target quite a bit in this game at the line of scrimmage. I mean, there was distribution to the ball, but there just wasn't many plays to be made. And that was both on the quarterback and the receivers. I mentioned there was a couple of miscommunications. There was one where Bryce threw to McCauley,
Yes.
and McCauley was blocking instead of being ready for the catch. And then there was another one where it was a receiver option, and the quarterback and the receiver thought differently. McCauley chose slant. Bryce threw the fade. It looked silly. I'm surprised these things don't happen more often when it's a receiver option route and the quarterback has to interpret what it's going to be. But we saw evidence of that, and that's learning curve. That's a new guy. That's a new freshman learning.
Yeah, and I have to imagine the quarterback understands body language, points of pressure, preferences of receivers to read that stuff. But it was clearly, and it looked really awkward, especially from the all-22, Steve. The ball sailing off into nowhere. Absolutely. I think fans were also a little frustrated because Michigan did get some breaks in this case on special teams from Oklahoma, turning the ball over, got another turnover, and really didn't make them pay. And I think that was frustrating. And, we couldn't convert those third down to keep the drives moving. We didn't mention Zavada's short kick that he missed, which was practically automatic.
Yes.
How does that happen?
Exactly. He hasn't really missed one like that in his Michigan career.
And they don't have a Zavada who also missed,
Right.
they missed a big. So that was another opportunity, that Michigan really didn't take total advantage of.
On the other side, Oklahoma's strength going into the game, they knew that their defensive line could dominate Michigan's offensive line. So that's why they were putting on the pressure to stop the run and force Bryce to pass and make things happen under a lot of duress. Their defensive line was ranked first in the nation by Phil Steele in his summer annual college football magazine. Michigan's defensive line was right up there too. That's why the game plans on defense were very similar to each other. But they were challenged by Mateer's ability to run, and Underwood didn't run as much. Again, part of the reason for fan frustration. Michigan 21% on third down with an average distance of 8.4 yards. I mean, those two numbers kind of go in hand.
Yikes.
I mean, the longer it is, the harder it is to complete. Offensive success rate for Michigan was just 20%. For context, anything below 40% is considered below average.
You don't have their numbers here, Oklahoma's numbers, but they had a bunch of long third and downs or medium third and downs, and they had no problem. And I felt like they almost got all of their third down in shorts, but I don't have the numbers.
Their
with me, Steve.
success rate was 30%, which was also below average, but they made more of the big plays.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that comes to mind is that Michigan had, on a third down, had Mateer wrapped up. He eluded it, slithered through it, and then fired a pass deep down the field and got the completions. His accuracy was right on the mark.
Yeah.
But Michigan's defense certainly had its moment.
There are some bright sides here, Steve, as we head into this.
Justice Haynes continues to impress. 75-yard touchdown run to open up the third quarter. His third big play of at least 55 yards. And By the way, people need to calm down a little bit. His dust up with Bryce.
That made the buzz around the stadium.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. It's a sign that there's anarchy.
Yeah.
Bryce is transferring. Justice Haynes is transferring.
We didn't go
it
that
is
far.
no big deal. They saw a play differently inside the 21-yard line. They were very vocal with one another on what should have been done. Conflicts like that happen with quarterbacks and coaches all the time. Only you don't see a coach get animated with a player and it escalate into something big, makes a whole bunch of highlight reels. When a coach does engage in such a matter, it's called a Brian Kelly.
We're sitting here again talking about the same things.
Yeah, so Justice Haynes did have a great game. He's supposed to speak in my NIL class soon, Steve, so hopefully that'll happen. I don't think I'm going to ask him about that, but that run, though, it happened so fast. I think only 11 seconds went off the play clock. There were still people coming back in from halftime, Steve.
Yeah, they missed it.
And tell me about the kickoff return for a touchdown. Like, it wasn't a kickoff return, my man. It was,
right.
Yeah.
And it was a great cutback by Haynes, good blocking up front. It lasted, though, one play. It was the only offensive touchdown they had in the game, and you might have missed it if you were getting popcorn.
You sure were. So, good news, bad news, right? You definitely, we were out Barham. Again, Steve, right or wrong, frustrated or not, he's out, he's back in. The defense was different with him in the game. Okay, it was different. They were up a notch. He is a force to be reckoned with. Yes, you had Moore out. We talked about Klein, probably his favorite target. But also, that's how it goes. And then we had more injuries in the game.
Oof.
Did Gio went out, our offensive lineman.
Your best lineman.
Did he come back in the game? I assume not.
No.
Are there any reports as of recording this podcast?
Nope.
We don't know. Zeke Berry was down by the way, the crowd was booing Zeke Berry loudly, thinking that Michigan was simply doing the fake injury to slow down the momentum thing.
Well, they see that so often in the SEC. It just becomes it's just customary.
But the longer he was down in the field, and then the trainer came out, and I think they kind of came. There was still boos.
Of course.
Barham walked off. It looked like someone stepped on his ankle or something. I don't know if they showed it on TV, but near the end of the game, and then he did he went after somebody on the Oklahoma huddle as he was walking off. So I assume he's okay, but we need him in this.
You need everybody you can get. And the Barham thing, since you were there and you don't know, they had the replay guy for ABC. Well, what did you think of the targeting call? And just like everybody else, really surprised it was called, but understood it under the certain rule that we talked about in the last podcast.
Gosh.
About hitting a defensive player. Doesn't matter whether you use the crown of your helmet or not. We can argue all we want about whether a quarterback dropping to pass is a defensive player or not, but that's the way it's written up in the rule book, and that's how it was addressed.
Steve, I've submitted that segment of you explaining that to the Emmy people for podcasts. Okay, and maybe it made its way to the ABC production crew.
I'm sure.
Wonderful job
you do have clout.
by Big Pun. That's right. So in a Marvel, we're going to nerd out, Steve. In a multi-dimensional universe,
yes,
and this game is played. I think Oklahoma wins. I don't know, 90% of this. They win this game. They're gonna beat us in this game. But there were a ton of what ifs on both sides. Granted, we talked about Barham being out. We stopped them on that first drive. They made some big third downs on that. The Zavada field goal. We just get that extra first down in their territory. Underwood finds a couple of those open receivers. Mateer is a little less slippery, right? But again, that's loser talk. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, Steve, what a merry Thanksgiving it would be. And then, by the way, Oklahoma fans are probably saying the same thing. If they clean up the special teams a little bit, right? Maybe they win that game by 3 touchdowns. They have a lot to hang their hat on.
They're now thinking, Michigan is behind us. Great win. Here's what we need to do to start winning the tough conference schedule that they have upcoming. It makes people sick probably to see that Oklahoma's season win total in Vegas was 6.5.
Yeah.
And they beat Michigan.
Okay, so what happens in Schembecker Hall over the next 2-3 weeks is really, to me, going to define how this season's going to go. How do you respond from this? How do you move on? Let's assume they'll take care of Central Michigan. Are you ready for that trip to Nebraska? It's huge. And I do think this team has some great leadership at the captain's level. Otherwise, I'm optimistic that they're going to pull through this. Of course, Sharon's not going to be a presence there. So how do they? This is a big couple weeks here, and we'll have it all for you. But these captains, they did a little segment on MGO Blue, like some of their social media. Who would you want in your foxhole? Steve, do you know who I want in my foxhole?
Tell me.
Especially if I'm running an IT organization. It's Maverick Technology Partners. That's who you want in your foxhole. You want the people, you want the processes, you want the services to support your IT infrastructure, your managed services, to help you find a good project manager. Near and dear to the professor's heart is project management, is planning, is proper execution and delivery of services and projects. That's what they do. They find those people for you. They take these concerns out of your hands. They support you, and they're there with you all the way along the way. They will not abandon you. That's what you want in your foxhole, Steve. Maverick Technology Partners. Find them at mavericktechnologypartners.com.
Awesome, Greg. You, on Friday, didn't know whether you were watching the game from your couch or from the place that I wanted to be at, Norman, Oklahoma. You ended up getting a ride, so to speak. You hitchhiked.
I hitchhiked it away.
You hitchhiked to Norman, and you got there. Tell us about the trip from start to finish.
Yeah, so we teased it last week that, I had the fortunate experience to fly on a private jet to a game before. That was Penn State. Those of you who are listeners, we had some fun with that. We joked with it a little bit. Well, I did get the nod, but you're kind of waiting around because this isn't a flight out of Metro Airport, out of the Delta terminal where it's scheduled and you have your ticket. It's almost like, hey, do I have a seat in the van, Steve? Am I going to South Bend with you guys, kind of thing? Did
I make the cut?
When are we leaving?
Did I make the cut?
Don't know, right? Don't really know, and also don't really want to be the guy who goes, hey, remember we talked about maybe me going, not with this, maybe with a van.
You remember when we talked about me, like,
you remember when you were with the Beatles?
Kind of going with you?
I'm not going to be the one. Obviously, I did get the green light Friday.
How long did it take you to answer the phone?
Steve, you're so naive about these matters. No.
Yeah. No, I want to know.
That is syrupy. It's a group text with the plan, the logistics, the codes, the menu.
So Friday morning, I imagine you've got your phone set to your text messages and you're seeing the group chat text. And every 5 minutes, you're kind of looking at it, waiting for it to move or seeing 3 dots show up that somebody is communicating. And you're probably talking to your phone. It's just like, say something.
Hey, Siri, are there any other type of ways I can be notified about a text? It's like I'm waiting.
Talk to me, Goose. Talk to me.
Yeah, talk to me, and then doubt sets in, they must have forgot about me.
You're writing a text to me, half written, saying, hey, what are you doing tonight?
Yeah. So I recommend it. It's fantastic. The funny thing is, and again, also didn't ask, no one said anything about the tickets or where we're watching the game. But honestly, as you're in the air, speeding toward Norman, Oklahoma, it's the least of your worries.
Did anybody think that you were responsible for that?
No, but this is nuanced. But I was like, do I need to make some moves here? Do I need to call out my network and help? But I had enough.
Do you remember when we were going to get tickets?
Yeah,
was that supposed to be something I was doing, or are we good?
To that point. Yes, the backdrop of this whole thing is you don't want to blow it. You don't want to screw this up.
No, I would.
And another underrated aspect of this is there's other private jets leaving from the same place. Mm-hmm. Some of these people I know, they're all in the air. And then I'm thinking, we got to beat these guys. It's a bit of a competition, right?
So wait a minute. You're not only going on a private jet, all the other private jets that are taking off and the flight manifest.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but let's just say I recognize some of the people. And Steve, I got to tell you.
And did you ever wonder, was I supposed to be on that one?
No. Or the worst thing you could do is, hey, we're here. Can I go on yours?
Yeah.
So you bring something. This isn't like, hey, we should bring a bottle of wine. You want to bring something cool, right, on the board. So I got a nice bottle of bourbon, right?
Okay.
And
Just a step up above wine, by the way.
My lovely wife goes, well, how are you going to get that on the plane? And I'm like, I don't think you understand how this works, darling. She's like, you're not going to, the McNamara terminal? No, we're parking and walking on the plane. There's no
metal detector?
Well,
there's no TSA?
Well, so, yeah, it's all good. By the way, up in the air,
Yeah.
they're serving food. There's a menu. There's drinks, of course. Steve, if you're putting food in front of me on a private plane, I guess any plane,
Okay.
I'm eating it.
You are. Okay.
I want a hamburger. No, a cheeseburger. I want a hot dog. I want a milkshake. I want potato
You'll
chips.
get nothing and like it.
If there's appetizers, if there's a course, if there's desserts, which all are true in this case, I'm eating everything. I'm not leaving anything empty at all.
Is there rules behind this? Like, are you supposed to clean up your plate? Are you supposed to wait for everyone else to eat? Or, you didn't take everyone's favorite dish?
I did not. There was plenty.
Okay.
But trust me, if it was offered, I was taking.
Okay.
I believe it's a line in Seinfeld when he's up in first class. She says, more of anything? Jerry responds, more of everything. That's me. That's this guy with two thumbs. Perfect day. Rode up to the stadium. There was a tailgate with a mutual friend that we all hung out with. Fantastic. My students, their parents there, got to meet them. Prof and Pundit fans on Prem.
And once again, I'm sure everybody is going, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I get that.
I think you get that a lot.
And my standard tongue-in-cheek answer is, where do you want me to be? Of course I'm here. I got to be here.
Whether it's the 50-yard line, the pregame meal before a Michigan game.
Yes. I've had some
You're
cool
there.
experience, so this is great. All right, so Steve, our man, Nick Hoppin was at the game. I never ran into him. I looked, but I always like to see Nick, give him a bear hug, and inevitably, kind of the premise of this podcast when we started thinking about it was our love for stocks, investing, the markets, and nuance. Nobody knows it better than Nick Hopwood, Steve. Nobody.
Nick was probably doing some covered calls. And that's probably why you didn't see him on your lap. Now, Nick is always very prepared. He's looking at the markets all the time. And we're going into the phase where we're wrapping up the third quarter, which is traditionally the weakest couple of months of the year investing-wise. Also, 2025 has gone so well. So you're always thinking about, am I selling at the right time? Is this the time to lean in and to buy even more as we go into the fourth quarter? These are things that Nick knows about because he's been studying the markets for several decades now. He knows what he's doing. I feel good when I talk to him about my investments, and you should too.
Yeah, and in this time of the year in the third quarter, now you're thinking about tax efficiency. If you're playing chess and not checkers, and that's what Nick Hopwood does for you, those are the things you're thinking about. Where can you find him, Steve?
You can find him online at peakwm.com. That is Peak Wealth Management. Retire with confidence.
Norman, Ann Arbor is very unique, Steve. Our stadium is pushed off of the campus proper, and that goes back to history and why we put it there, part of the geography, but it's not necessarily amongst all the buildings and stuff. Everyone knows that. Most stadiums are not that way. They're more part of campus. That is absolutely true in Norman. Reminded me of Nebraska a little bit about the stadium vibe and just the intermix of all the students and the fan vibe, and also a little bit of South Bend. What do I mean? The beautiful buildings that are around the campus and stadium, it really kind of felt like that. Like there's a lot of crosswalks.
Right.
Beautiful.
So
lots of long hair and cowboy boots also, Steve.
Well, I could believe that.
Yeah.
A lot of cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Hats.
So, not like everybody.
Men
but
too, right? Long
Some. It's not quite, I imagine, what it looks like in Texas and other places, but
Right.
there's a lot of that. Yeah.
So I could think of some stadiums that are in the middle of campus. South Bend is in the middle of campus. Their stadium. Michigan State, pretty centralized.
Absolutely.
Penn State's kind of far away. I think their stadium's far away
Penn
from
State
campus.
is absolutely far. It's its own thing. That is unique,
Right.
in my opinion. Yeah.
Farthest has got to be, what, Hard Rock from Miami? Like a 45-minute drive between Coral Gables?
Yeah.
That's a long way. That's a long
Yeah.
walk for the students.
And I got to say, everything else equal, I love Ann Arbor. I love it because you do get that, it bucks up right on Main Street into residential areas, which is so great. Of course, Joe's Garage.
I think Wisconsin is like that too, if I remember.
I think that makes it very cool. Although I got to say, like, the being right on campus is a special thing. I had a young man with us, Steve, who was on our trip, saying there were 10s everywhere. I assume this is derogatory.
Not my generation.
A rating of the attractiveness of the young ladies who were around.
That's a good number.
I think it's a good number.
Yeah.
Well, derogatory in that. Are we really supposed to be judging?
Oh, are we rating people anymore?
by,
Okay.
yes, what, Are we supposed to be doing this?
Gotcha.
Yes, our listeners know exactly. In fact, there was literally a movie called 10 with Bo Derek.
That's
we know
right.
what we're talking about. Okay.
Bo Schembechler's favorite fan.
But you have that more southern feel where people aren't in T-shirts and jeans. A lot of the women are wearing dresses. The frat pledges are there in jacket and tie. It's that kind of thing.
It's an SEC environment.
Yeah.
They are adjusting.
And I got to say, man, unbelievably warm and kind, welcoming, thanks for coming, that kind of thing.
They must have known what was coming.
Yeah, well, but almost 0% hatred. And I gotta say, their go-to hand gesture, Steve. Do you know? Some people make the M for us now. People have the Instagram photo hand gesture.
Right.
Do you know what theirs is?
No, I just know it's Boomer Sooner.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's a hand gesture.
Horns down.
Oh, horns down. Okay.
Everybody. It's every photo, every camera on the stadium shots, the kiss cam.
Right.
The guy on the field, the flyover crew, horns down. Everybody. I didn't know. It was because I know they really don't like that in Texas. They don't like you talking about it. And it is right in their face.
They want to make it a technical foul in basketball, an unsportsmanlike conduct foul in football, and arrest fans on site. That's what Texas wants. So what do? You just rub it in their face even more.
Big time. So that is clearly happening. The stadium. You guys got good views of it, I'm sure, on TV. Beautiful. Maybe the highest press box. Ryan Field in Northwestern was on level 7 or 8, believe it or not. Incredibly high. Michigan State's very high. This might be the topper, man. It was way up there. So I'll have to get some of my friends in the press box to tell me. Beautiful stadium. They've clearly adapted it for modern sentiments with open club areas, and you could see where they put the suites. But as far as the vibe inside, every inch, every moment, every break, advertisements. Sponsored by multiple hype men on the field, T-shirt cannons.
Multiple hype men.
Yes, multiple hype men. So they got a hype guy who's doing the fan fun things, and their score update guy, Steve, is on the field in a live segment with the clips behind him, doing the
Really?
Would you believe it? Let's go to Florida. They were in a tight one. Uh-oh, upset alert, and he's breaking down what happened in the other games. Of course, and the fans are reacting, booing. And then, of course, everyone ends every sentence with Boomer, and the crowd yells Sooner. So you've got that. But everything was sponsored. Everything was sold. And I got to say, I've seen this before. Nebraska does this. It's like a pro game. If you've ever been to an NBA game, everything is sold. Yeah. Everything's sold. It felt like that. I got to say, they kind of pull it off where, as Michigan fan, where we have very little of this, it kind of worked. It worked. There's a vibe there where they kind of have accepted this. They're into it. They know what's coming. They know some of the routines. They do the crazy, fan cams, and the fans are into it. Ward, I'm sure, was there. He's probably taking notes, man. He's probably taking notes.
They all should be taking notes, whether they use it or not.
Yeah, it was loud, but not crazy loud. And it is more of a party experience, I'd say, than a rowdy fan base, right? Respectful, chill. Highly recommend it if you get it. But, Steve, I did learn a new private jet rule, PJ rule.
Were you on the wrong side of it?
No.
Were you caught by surprise?
No, sir. Do you remember what we established, the advice I got on PJ rule number 1?
Yes.
Remember this one?
And it's not to wear PJs.
Yes, number 1.
Don't wear PJs on PJs.
Number 2, though, what we learned last time, I had my Council of Elrond at Frazier's before my first trip, Steve. And the advice was, don't sit in the owner's seat because the owner of this plane has a seat.
Yes.
There's not tape on it. There's not a Post-it note, Steve.
No.
It's not colored a different way. It's not a throne like LeBron, like it would be awesome.
It's not the most decorated seat. It looks like every other seat.
It looks like every other seat.
But the owner has the
owner's seat.
Yes.
So my move is to let a few people board, kind of hang near the owner of this plane.
Right, and hang around where they're serving out the food, standing up.
Well, I'm standing, and then I throw out a, hey, owner, where do you need me kind of thing. You kind of need me. There's a hand gesture over to a seat, and that's my seat for the rest of the trip. Okay, I found a more important rule.
Ooh, a more important rule.
Yes.
So this is the new number one rule.
Absolutely. This is the number one rule.
I spent some time trying to figure this one out. No PJs on PJs. Let the owner choose his seat.
Okay. On the front end, this is obvious.
Okay.
We're leaving at, say, 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
You better be there by 2 o'clock. Can we agree?
Yes.
Okay. A bigger one.
Right.
When you're leaving games and you're flying back that night,
yes,
and there's many of you,
yes,
inevitably you're probably not all together, but you got to get back.
Yes.
And you're not exactly sure when the person who's responsible for this wants to leave. So you better have your ears on, brother. Don't leave the guy or the man or woman who owns this plane waiting at the airport for you when everyone else is there.
No.
Is rule numero uno. Did not happen to us. It did not happen to us, but let's just say I might have seen this happening to somebody else.
On your plane?
No. It did not happen on my flight.
But somebody else.
I saw someone else in the airport going through this situation.
Oh, boy.
Steve, it wasn't pretty. So
I got to be back by tomorrow morning.
I feel like we're helping people. For everyone who's going to be on a private jet, I've just helped you. This is what we do here. Play the, the more you know, like say this is what we do. Amazing time. Very grateful. Obviously, I'm not, sharing any more specifics than that, but just what an incredible way to experience a game. And so fun, Steve. I actually smartly had basically an Uber waiting for me to take me home. I slept the entire way home from the airport.
The saying that you did not have cell service where you were at is the equivalent of saying the dog ate my homework.
Yes. There are no excuses. Like, you're not sure and you're cut off. Maybe in the third quarter, you're just getting out of there and just going back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Or getting out of there, going for a place. Yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening for me. So
live from location, it's Professor Dooley from Topeka, Kansas, everyone. That's how far he made it.
And is it past some people just to go and just the plane's leaving? Heard that can happen, Steve. Not sure it happened yesterday, for the game, but you're on your own. Figure it out.
And if you think it's going to be awkward about getting on the next plane, don't worry about it.
I don't think that's coming.
You're not getting on the next plane.
I think you better make other plans for your future.
For your next trip.
All right. Did the Big Ten play any other games?
Oh, my gosh. Dude, week 2. I mean, there's a reason why Michigan and Oklahoma was the marquee matchup of the day. I mean, the two teams were in the top 25 playing one another. Penn State, Ohio State, Nebraska, and Oregon. They destroyed their teams. They played Saturday by an average score of 60-1 was the average score. The Buckeyes covered their 55 points by beating Grambling 70-0. The Ducks didn't score in the fourth quarter, but still hung 69 on Power 4 opponent Oklahoma State.
Oh, yeah.
5 Big Ten teams with at least 68 points. That was Ohio State, Washington, Oregon, Nebraska, and Minnesota. Ohio State and Penn State, though, ranked number 1 and number 2. Oregon at number 6 in the nation. I don't think those polls are going to change that much. Illinois could be ranked in the top 10. They're currently at 11. That's a good Big Ten representative to have 4 teams in the top 11, possibly 4 teams in the top 10. And speaking of the Illini, they are letting people know that they could make a college football playoff berth after winning at Duke 45-19. Their percentages of getting to that college football playoff berth, or at least getting 10 wins on the season, astronomically went up with the road victory down in Durham.
Their quarterback, is it Altmaier? He looks pretty
Luke
good.
Altmaier is a third-year starting quarterback. If you really think about it, nobody wants to believe it, but Luke Altmaier is one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and showed it again. And Illinois lost some people from last year's team, but Brett Bielema has got it going on. They'll be playing Ohio State this year. I mean, that's probably going to be a loss for them, but Illinois has potential. And Michigan State won in double overtime, avenging last season's final minute loss to Boston College. They converted the 2-point conversion. BC did not. Aiden Childs with 4 touchdowns on the day and one additional one rushing, I think. So that was a career day for him.
If there was a game Michigan fans were kind of keeping an eye on because it was at the same time, if you could get cell reception, there was a buzz when it went overtime. You could hear all that.
Right.
So good for the Spartans. They needed that one. There was a lot of talk if they lost that game that suddenly Jonathan Smith's the seat was getting hot, warm, whatever you want to call it. If they didn't get that game, whether that's realistic or not, they got it done.
Michigan State fans are happy this weekend.
Yeah.
Michigan State won an important game, and Michigan lost.
And their favorite team lost.
Yeah, I mean, they're giddy today.
Yeah. Steve, NCAA portal news, just really quick. I think because we do want to talk about the next couple of weeks a little bit, if we can, but the portal news. So the NCAA looks like it's going to move. It's not approved yet to move to a single portal window, a 10-day window in January. If you know now, there are 2 windows, 20 days in December, 10 days in April. This was driving coaches nuts because they were losing players near the end of the season or just after the season. They were losing players after spring camp. And by the way, the window means you have to submit your name in the portal. It doesn't mean you have to land somewhere.
Right.
You just have to enter the portal. So coaches have been screaming for this. I guess we'll stay tuned on this, but they were hoping to have a little more stability and sanity in knowing their rosters coming out of the season and into spring. We'll see. Just flood the portal, with players who want to keep their options open. Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, the coaches want it because they're just constantly recruiting the same players over and over again. There's a lot of players now, and the numbers are astronomical about who goes into the portal and who goes out. The idea that you take somebody in the portal in January, they spend spring football at your place, you've given them the playbook, you've acclimated them to being teammates, and after spring ball, they go transfer somewhere else again.
Yeah.
It's really hard to manage a roster. I did find it amusing, though, that people on Sirius XM 84, recent former players, talked about the idea. It says, man, we should have one portal during the course of the year, and maybe players should only get to transfer once in their college career. I mean, they were ready to turn back the clock to the way it was before COVID. And I thought it was funny listening to them go into their arguments about why yesteryear was a better time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the same people who advocated for all of this are now wishing they could turn back the clock. And these are things I always find amusing. The people who thump their chest and beat the gavel on big change, and then they regret it and wish it'd go back around.
I could go on about this, I hate like this paternalistic, we know what's better for you kind of attitude about that we have in our society and we have in sports. But one thing I would like to see is exactly that, is more restrictions on movement early, like the first couple years, to kind of force players to stick it out a little bit with their team for the first 2 years if they can. I don't know if that's going to happen, but to actually have them have to take classes, get in, get comfortable, and just wiggle out of it, maybe some protections from them, but we can get into it another time, Steve. We should talk about the next couple of weeks a little bit. We got CMU coming in. Is there anything to worry about this game?
No.
It's a noon game. We're kind of back to normalcy here.
Yeah.
What's going on?
It's going to be a blowout, I would think. If they don't, again, it gives me more concern because you're seeing Big Ten teams blowing out other teams if you're any good. Michigan's got to do the same thing to Central Michigan. Now, the Chippewas doing better than people expected in Mount Pleasant. They were a 2-touchdown underdog at San Jose State, and they won, snapping a 10-game road losing streak for them. Saturday, they lost at Pitt 45-17. I think they had like 217 yards of total offense. They played 3 different quarterbacks, were sacked 4 times. They don't appear to be a threat to run or pass the ball. One guy I would like to mention on defense is Jordan Kwiatkowski. Had an interception, led the team in tackles for the Chips last week. He's on the first-team preseason Mid-American team. So that's a guy.
Yeah, so I got to speak. I think I've mentioned this here, but I got to speak
did.
to their sports management conference. I was a keynote speaker.
You spoke to their coach and didn't know it.
Well, there's a guy. He's standing in the back, right? Raises his hands. Looks like the gym coach, the phys ed guy from Central.
So you wear a whistle
He
and
says-
a white terry cloth, towel around his neck?
Yeah. He says, "Hey, Poindexter," that's me.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about Title IX and all this, and NIL. And I answer, and he says, someone asked me, he goes, that was the head football coach. I go, it was. I go, that's kind of cool. There you go.
Didn't have quite the Q score yet.
I think he liked I saw the head nodding, on the answer, and then he left.
Yeah.
He got what he needed, and then he went back and he started preparing for Michigan.
Yeah.
That's what he
Exactly.
did. So I'll be out there, Steve. I assume you'll be out there not only in the garage, but this will be the first time that they're going to do the post-game show once again from Oscars afterward. Steve, hopefully I'll see you there.
Should be there. Should be
Awesome.
there for that. And then we will find out later this week how the whole Sharon Moore exit for 2 weeks, what he can do, what he can't do, who's in charge. It's a question that Sharon has avoided up until this point, but we'll be finding out soon enough.
But we won't see him in a Connor Stallions-like disguise on the sideline,
sideline.
ironically playing Central Michigan.
I hope not.
Okay, maybe on the Central Michigan sideline, invited by them. Is that against the rules? Okay. No, we'll see. All this stuff to come. It's a big 2 week. I know people are down. Okay. And again, I think a lot of the optimists turn to doubters, but 2 weeks here, big transition, big to see how the locker room goes, Steve. I'm looking forward to it. We'll have it all for you next week on our next episode.
Go Blue, Greg.
Go Blue.